Okay, welcome to this latest episode of the Scales podcast with myself, Tom Ryder. My special guest this episode is the comedian Steve Bugeja.
Hey.
Hey.
How you doing?
And we just as I always do, we'll kind of kick off by just brushing over what Scales is all about, what that kind of means. So as we've covered previously, Scales has 6 strings for wellbeing, which is sleep, creative, active, listen, earth, and social. And what I do as a wellbeing coach is try and encourage people to follow these strings and address them and keep them in tune in order to feel balanced and in harmony, etc. It's a real pleasure to have Steve along with us today. I've known Steve for a long time and followed his comedian journey at every step of the way in times of
you were there at the low points,
the low points as well as the very high points as well. So
and the low points like to come, I imagine.
Well, I mean, you never know, but it's it's lovely to have you here, and I just want to kind of dive straight in really with talking about, because out of those strings, those scale strings, I imagine today we'll talk a little bit about the kind of social strings, the social aspect of comedy, but also the creative aspect, which is so key. And it'd be nice perhaps to kick off with just your journey into comedy. Where did that kind of originate and what gave you that initial hook?
I think it began when I was quite young. I was 19 years old when I did my first stand-up gig. I was actually I was at university in Manchester, but I actually did my first gig in America. I was working on a summer camp for kids, like looking after the kids in America, in Pennsylvania. And they had like a staff talent contest. And I just entered and did stand-up. Now, I don't really remember why I did it. Like, I don't remember what gave me the confidence to do that. And I had like always, thought stand-up was amazing and thought what an incredible thing that one person can just hold a room and people listen to them and they make them laugh. I thought it was a brilliant thing, but I didn't ever imagine I would do it. And I think there was something about being like in a new environment with new people that no one knew me. I could just like reinvent myself and I could be the funny one. And it wasn't like I wasn't funny at uni, but I wasn't. I don't think people were like, he's going to be a comedian. I think they were like, oh, yeah. Steve says funny things sometimes. But he's a bit of a geek, really, and he loves economics. That was more my reputation. So I think being in that new environment, I was like, well, why not? Just do stand-up. And I did it, and it went all right. Like, I felt quite comfortable on stage. I felt quite confident on stage. And my friend Tom, who I just made, new friend, helped me write the jokes, and we just did. And then I just sort of felt this. I guess I felt like a version of me that I'd never felt before. When you're 19, like you're a bit shy and you don't really know who you are yet. And I think I just suddenly felt like I'd found something in me on stage. I guess a bit of it was I got like praise for it, and I got like when I came off stage, people looked at me slightly differently and they talked to me and they were excited, and that made me feel like good. So some of it's just like validation, like some of it's just basic. I got attention from people. And then I went back to university in Manchester and just started gigging around Manchester. Manchester was like an amazing place to start comedy because there was a good scene, but it wasn't too big to get sort of dwarfed. And I met loads of people who were also starting out similar time to me, similar age. And I would just start gigging around like working men's clubs in Manchester and Rochdale and, Oldham. And instead of going to like phone parties with my friends at university, I went and did a bit of a comedy set after a meat raffle. And I just kind of got hooked. I just like loved it. And I loved the process of writing jokes. I loved the, when you write something and then go and test it that night and you get a laugh, like there's no better buzz. Like it's the most incredible buzz. I've not done many drugs, but I think it is a better than any drug.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. But genuinely that feeling of like, you create something in your head, you don't know if it's gonna be funny, but you think it is, and then you say it and people laugh. It's just amazing. And I just kind of got addicted to getting better. I think I like love the idea of improving. It's a very you get better very slowly in stand-up, but you do see the improvements. So like it is really hard to do, but it's not like you are struggling getting nowhere for ages. Like you do get incrementally better, and that's quite addictive so I would have good, obviously you have bad gigs and you have setbacks, but I just kept getting I love the process. And then when I left university, I just thought, well, I'll give it a go, much to my parents' dismay. I was like, well, I'll just do, rather than get a job, I'll try and do stand-up. And I just lived very cheaply because I didn't earn much money. And then I kind of just kept going from there. And then I kept doing stand-up. And now it's like diversified. So I do stand-up and I write for TV shows and do various other things within comedy that kind of build up a full career.
Yeah. And we sort of think about having, for myself, music is a very powerful creative outlet in terms of processing emotion, making sense of feelings, channeling thoughts and ideas. And I imagine, do you find that it'd be nice to just talk about the creative process, or perhaps the cathartic process of actually joke writing and seeing that other side of experiences that you're going through?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I think jokes are an amazing way to process sadness and happiness and all emotions, because jokes, by their very nature, like, take people by surprise. You know, like the way people react to a joke is involuntary. That's why they laugh. Like, no one can force themselves to laugh, not in a genuine way anyway. So there's something really nice about if you take something that's quite sad or, maybe traumatic for the teller, and actually make a joke out of it. People laugh. They don't mean to. And then they almost like process what you've said. You know, like, it's almost a trick way of getting them to process something quite sad. Or think about it, at least. So I find, there's I often write about things that have, not deeply sad things, but I've written about things that have been troubling for me and try and turn them into comedy. Like, because if you all laugh at it, I guess it doesn't hurt as much. And I guess that's a shared thing, because there'll be other people who've been through it as well, whatever the thing is, even if it's not even a major thing, it could just be a small thing. Like, even if it's just like, oh, I'm struggling with dating, if you do jokes about, oh, I also struggle with dating, isn't it a nightmare? But you make jokes about that. For some people, that's actually a really sad thing in their life, that they struggle to find a partner or whatever. But if you make some jokes about it, and they then feel less alone. And that's why they're laughing, because they're like, oh, I recognize that. Like, I know how that feels, and I don't feel as scared anymore. That's how I sort of see it. And I felt that, like, watching other comedians. Like, my favorite comedians are the ones who talk about. There's a comedian called Mike Birbiglia, who's an American comedian. He does these amazing story shows, and he talks like about life and the meaning of life and all these deep issues about whether he wants children and whether he what the whole point of everything is. And he's so funny and brilliant and smart. And I just connect with that so much, because these are all things I worry about all the time. But when I'd watch him do it, he's created jokes out of it, and you still think about the issues, but you're laughing on you, because you're not watching some TED talk.
Sure, yeah. And when that laughter kind of manifests, when it comes back at you, be good to talk a little bit about that feeling, because it's a magic thing. The closest, I try to chat a bit on stage in between songs, and sometimes that can be funny, sometimes that can be whatever it may be. But almost my biggest win is making my daughter laugh. Yeah. And it's a real cackle, and it's all teeth everywhere, and just the sound. It's just pure sheer joy. Yeah. Hearing that sound. We're laughing, we're having fun, and just describe that in a stand-up. Or
probably not as wholesome. When I make a bunch of a stag night laugh in Portsmouth, it's probably not as wholesome as when you make your daughter laugh. But it is an amazing feeling of, like, writing a joke and getting, particularly the first time you ever tell it, because you do not know whether it's going to go well, and sometimes it doesn't go well, which is what makes it feel even better when it does go well. But it's just a nice shared moment, because you're effectively, with a joke, you're pointing at something going, look how funny this is, like in a form. And that when they laugh, they're going, oh, we agree. That is funny. Yeah. And that's like a nice shared moment. Sometimes they go, no, that's not funny. I don't know what you're talking about, mate. But it's a nice, the feeling's amazing. Like, you feel energized, and there's no better. I go and do special gigs that are just for new material, where effectively people pay less to get in, and it means you can be a bit rubbish. It's I'll often be reading off a bit of paper, like jokes that I've written that day, and some of them, maybe the hit rate will be 50%, maybe sometimes less, and those are the gigs that I leave and feel the most excited. And I won't have got paid any money. Like, I just would have been on stage in front of, 50 people and just reading out, going, is this funny? Like, and when they say it is funny via laughter, you just feel so energized. And I leave and I go home that night and I'll write, I'll be excited to write more about the ones that did work, and then scrap the ones that didn't. But it's a very it doesn't get old. I thought maybe I would grow out of it. I thought this might be a novelty in my 20s. I thought like, it's just a fun thing to do in your 20s, and maybe I'll grow up and get a serious job. But actually, and I've chatted to my comedian mates about this, all similar age, that buzz of writing something and getting a laugh doesn't change. Like, it always feels amazing. And I imagine comedians in their 60s and 70s still get that buzz when they write a new joke.
Yeah.
And like, what an amazing thing like that I have. I feel so lucky that I have access to this skill that is constantly going to bring me joy. And I do forget about it sometimes. Like, I sometimes feel a bit down, and I forget that actually being creative and creating new stuff is what gives me happipiness. And I have to like remind myself to do it effectively. I was actually chatting to my friend Reese the other day, and he just said something like, he was just like, the cure to any feeling down or feeling self-conscious or whatever is always just to create something new. He's like, it's always the answer. And I just have to remember that. Like, even if it's just writing a script or something, it doesn't have to be a joke. It could be just like a new idea that I'm developing. I always feel better that night when I've done the creating, even if it's actually not even that good. It's just the act of being creative is like a constant sort of source of happiness.
Yeah.
And I feel very lucky to have that.
And a kind of driver.
Yeah. And like, it comes with pressures as well. Like, I'm not going to pretend it's like perfect, because obviously being self-employed as a creative is very unstable. Like, I worry about money, I worry about the future all the time, and that has its own mental health issues. But I'm lucky. I've been lucky with work generally, and I feel like it's outweighed by the good things. Like, the happiness I get from being creative is like unrivaled, really. And doing writing a new Edinburgh show to take up to the Edinburgh Fringe is just like such a great creative pursuit. And I still drive myself mad when I go up there, but like, it is really exciting to think of a new idea and go up and do it. Or even making a video on Instagram and stuff like that's a sort of new thing, relatively new, that comedians are having to do a lot more sketches online and talking to camera stuff and that. But it's still the same process of like, I've got an idea, I'm going to convert that into something that people can watch.
Yeah.
And I do get the buzz from that, to be honest. Like, I used to be a bit snobby about Instagram stuff and be a bit like, I don't do Instagram reels. I might put stand-up up. I don't talk to camera. But actually, I was really stupid, because it's the same. It's like testing a joke. And when you get loads of likes, it feels good. And it's a bit more shallow, I'd say, than maybe.
But not that the human, the in the room, face-to-face aspect is obviously different.
Yeah, for sure. It feels better when you do it in front of an audience. But it's also nice to see your clip do well and people are connecting with it. It's still a connection.
Different sort of dopamine.
It's a different dopamine. It's probably a less healthy dopamine. But what I would say is it's actually not really about the end result. And this is something that's taken me a while to learn. Because I used to spend a lot of time focused on aiming for things that I thought were going to make me happy. Like getting to a certain level of my career or achieving a certain thing. And I was like, well, that will make me happy. How can I not be happy if I have that?
Yeah.
And every time I got to the level, it wasn't like I wasn't happy. I just like, it didn't solve the problem. It didn't like immediately make everything better. And I think, I was lucky enough to have a sitcom, I had 2 series of a sitcom. And I remember thinking, like, if you told me when I was 22 or 23 that I was ever going to have a sitcom on TV, I'd have been like, well, that's the best thing that could ever happen to you. You're going to be that's the most happy you'll ever be. Yeah. And the truth is, that wasn't the most happy I was ever. I was actually extremely stressful, and I loved it, and I was very lucky, but it didn't solve all the problems. And what I learned was actually the happiest time of making a sitcom or making an Edinburgh show or whatever is the making. It's the creating bit. It was like sitting in a room with my mate and writing the scripts or sharing ideas. Like, that was the most happy I've ever been. And it didn't really matter that it got made. Like, that was cool and very exciting. But really the happiness came from the creating. The fact it got made was just a bonus. And now I take I really try and remember that, because it's, it's so easy to be like, I've not got a TV show now, or I'm not doing this thing that those people are doing. But actually, the truth is, it doesn't cost anything to sit in your room and write a script or write a joke. Like, I can still do that, and so can everyone else. You can just sit and do the thing that is the best bit. Like, I promise you, it's the best bit about any kind of creative success. It's the creating bit, which you can do for free.
Yeah.
And I think I'm glad I've learned that, because I think might have driven myself mad.
In terms of like you're chasing.
Chasing, just always trying to get
yeah.
the next thing. And actually, I've really pleased. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still forget it regularly, but I try and remember that even if I got the next thing, like even if I landed what's the best, like even if I landed a TV show in America, right? Like a massive, like still the best thing about that is going to be sitting in my room writing the show, you know?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really matter that it's getting, obviously money and all that stuff is good, but it's like the actual happiness comes from like sitting and writing.
So stripping it back.
And it sounds like, I don't want to sound like a bit wanky, but like, I think I just look back on when I had that show. I was like, oh, the happiest bit was just sitting in a room with my mates and laughing. And we were lucky to do it. And yeah, it was cool. We got paid and that it got put on TV. But really, the getting put on TV bit was quite stressful and like drove me a bit mad. But the best bit was like sitting writing it, or you know, making it was also fun. But really, the best bit was just like think of an idea and saying it to my friend and him going, oh, that's a fun idea. What we did this, and then you know, that's the fun bit. So I can still do that.
Great, yeah. And if we think about the kind of arc of your career, obviously you've done a lot of Edinburgh shows. You've had the sitcom Buffering, which did really well. You've done some fantastic straight stand-up gigs. I'm sure there's been some not so good gigs as well. I mean, if you could maybe just take it, just looking at that arc, maybe some highlights, some low points, and what you've kind of taken forward.
I think the amazing thing about stand-up is that it doesn't matter how good you get at it, it's always possibly going to have a bad gig. Like no one is immune to having a bad gig. And that's like a brilliant thing. I was actually thinking about this yesterday because I was watching the Winter Olympics. And I was watching these ice skaters doing that, you know, the dancing one.
Yeah.
And the best ice skater in the world, he was an American guy, I forget his name, but he's like regarded as the best in the world. And he's in the final and he's doing his dance and obviously brilliant, but he fell over like 3 times and he was gutted. He was absolutely gutted. And it really made me think of stand-up. Like he was the best and he is the best. It doesn't take away that he is still the best ice skater. Yeah. But it's so difficult to do that ice skating on dancing at the Olympics, is that he fell over. And I think stand-up is a little bit similar. Like, I'm not saying it's as difficult as that. You know, physically, it's a different ballgame. But even the very, very best comedians have bad gigs. Maybe less often. But I think that's brilliant. And that's why you very rarely meet comedians. Well, I've certainly not met many comedians who are complete arseholes, because we all get humbled quite regularly.
Yeah.
You know, you can't get too big for your boots, because you know that...
Because people are people as well.
People, like, you still can mess up, and that's kind of cool. And it also means you keep wanting to get better, because like...
And also some of the audiences are just not playing ball at all.
Yeah, and
like,
sometimes you just have a bad gig, and sometimes like the room's set up badly, and sometimes you know, for whatever reason, I don't know, the acts before you did really badly and made it weird, and then you go on, it's even weirder. And sometimes it's just they just don't like you. Sometimes you just start badly. Sometimes it's literally down to the first 10 seconds, and you just do something a bit weird, and then you mess it up.
Yeah.
And I kind of love that it's that precarious, because it keeps it from being boring, I think. But yeah, I mean, I do have less bad gigs now. Obviously, it is rare because I kind of know what to do. But particularly when I'm doing new material, like, and I'm more nervous and I don't know the material as well. Yeah, like it happens quite often where people are like, "No, that's not funny."
Right.
I guess I've got a thick skin now. I'm just like, oh, well, that's fine. I know other things are funny. Like, I don't take it as personally. When I started out, it was like the worst thing in the world. Like, I remember, oh my God, like my 10th gig, I was going to Preston, Preston Frog and Bucket. It doesn't exist anymore. It's a comedy club. And it was a new act night. And the aim of the night is you have to try and stay on stage for 5 minutes. And 3 members of the audience have cards, and they put the card up when they're bored, effectively.
Yeah.
So you've got to try and keep the cards down for 5 minutes, and then you get to get to leave with dignity. And if all 3 go up, you get gonged off. Like, literally, there's a gong, and they gong you, and you have to. Wow. It's absolutely savage. And Chris Ramsey was the MC before he was famous. He now has a Shag Married Annoyed podcast. And I just started badly, didn't know what I was doing, was very new. And you could feel within the first 30 seconds that
The gong is coming.
Honestly, it was like, and when they know you're not doing very well, and I was like stuttering, and I was doing jokes that had worked before, but I was just too new. I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just stuttering, and you can feel, and basically the whole room is just waiting for the cards to go up, and you can feel the audience all looking at the people with the cards, going, "Put the card up! This guy's awful. This guy's rubbish." And you're on stage, like just begging them to put the cards up, but also you don't want, and some of the card people are like lovely, so they're like being too nice to let you continue. And eventually, like after 3.5 minutes, the third card went up. But the worst bit is when there's 2 cards up and you're waiting for the third one. There is no worse feeling as a comedian when those 2 cards go out and you're waiting for the third. You're like, this is. And it feels like time slows down as you're speaking. And I remember I got the gong, and then Chris Ramsey came back on the mic, and he went, "That was fucking shite, wasn't it?" And I just walked off.
Wow.
And he's now a good friend of mine. He's a very lovely man, but he had to get a laugh because I hadn't got one in 3 minutes. And I just remember getting on the train and crying my eyes out all the way home because it was just so soul destroying. And I think that was the worst. That's like the lowest. But that is only to say that, yes, it can happen. You can have bad gigs, but it doesn't like define you. It just made me want to go back and do it again. Sure, not immediately.
Little break.
I must admit, there was a few days after that where I was like, maybe I won't do this.
You've spoken a little bit about just the nature of what you do as a bit of a solitary pursuit, and we've spoken a little bit about this, and there's that thing of, yes, being creative, writing a joke in your own room, that process is wonderful, but I think it'd be nice to talk about the sharing that's gone on and perhaps the sort of network you've got together in comedy, because there's kind of you solo going for it, and then there's actually other people to lean on, other people to collaborate with, and how important has that been for you?
It's the best part. Writing with friends is the most fun bit. Like, writing on your own is a bit solitary. Like, it's still fun writing a joke, but it can be a bit solitary, and the best bit is meeting up with your friends and sharing ideas. And I've been fortunate to work on shows with friends, and you're doing it together, because creativity, I think, is a group activity. Like, it is, you can do on your own, but it's way less efficient. If you've got 2 or 3 of you in the room, you're just going to come up with more ideas, because effectively a joke or any creative output is the fusion of 2 ideas that have previously not been put together. That's literally all it is. It's just 2 things that people have never put together, and you put it together. That creates a new thing. And if you've got more people in the room to think of the new thing, like, you're obviously going to do it quicker. So that, working with friends, like, I write the voiceover on Love Island USA with my friend Ian, who's the voice, and we just sit on Zoom and we watch the clips that we have to write jokes into. And then we sit and think of ideas for jokes. And like, sometimes it's quite, difficult, but it's like, he'll share an idea and I'll be like, "Oh, that's fun. We could do it like this." And then I'll think of another idea, and then we'll sort of perfect the wording of the joke, because it has to be a certain length, and it has to, has to have the right cadence and all that stuff. And that's a really shared activity. And that's really satisfying, because then you sort of walk away from each individual joke is almost like a little creative pursuit. Each one is like a little project. And it might take you 10 minutes. It might take you 30 minutes to do each one. Sometimes you just sat in silence waiting to think of an idea. But when you do think of one, it's like, "Oh, brilliant, that's great." And we sort of bail each other out sometimes. Like, the other one can't think of something, and then the other one thinks of something. That's a really nice relationship. And it's like each one's a little maths puzzle. That's how I see it. Like, each joke on Love Island for the voiceover to do is just like a little puzzle we have to solve. And when you think of the solution, it feels great.
And how does that challenge differ from writing for yourself, performing yourself? Because you've done quite a lot of writing for other people and other projects. And is that how does that differ?
In some ways, writing for yourself is a little bit harder, because you have to go and deliver the jokes, so there's like an added element of difficulty, whereas when I write for other people, they've got to go and deliver the jokes, so it's almost like half the task is taken off me. And I've written for some like absolutely brilliant comedians, like really, I remember writing for Russell Howard on his Sky One show, and I would just watch in awe as, I would sort of give him an idea, or one of the other writers would, he was writing with us. It was all a group activity, but he would take an idea, he could see you get excited about it, and he would just like stand up in the room and deliver the joke to us that had just been pitched to him.
Yeah.
And he would do it with such ability. Like, it was unbelievable. Like he was delivering a joke that he'd been doing for 10 years. Like, he was so slick and how quickly he was able to get that joke to a high level that I still now cannot do. I cannot deliver new material at that level. I think that's the difference between really, really top comedians. They can turn new material into very polished material so rapidly. And I remember just watching with such admiration as he would do that just day after day. Like, and then he would go on TV week after week and deliver what is like effectively an hour of brand new material and do it as if he's been doing it for years. Like, just so impressive. Like, it's so difficult to do that. Like, it's much easier to write that joke than it is to go on stage and deliver it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, so in that sense, writing for other people is fun because it's collaborative. It's a little bit easier because you haven't got the hard bit of delivering. And it's still satisfying because you still see the people laughing. Like, sure, you don't get the glory or the validation or whatever, but it's still fun to think, when I write a Love Island joke, sometimes you see on Twitter people quoting the joke but you just know that, the Love Island USA is watched by like 10 million people. So like, I know that at least some of them have laughed at the joke. That's a lot of people. And that's a cool feeling. Like, it's not quite the same as getting 50 people in a room to laugh at the thing I've just said. It's a different buzz, but it's still like a really cool.
But also
feeling.
that thing of, so you think of, we've spoken to some songwriters on this podcast as well, and writing for other people, it's like you do your bit, you do your creativity in the room, you do all the good process that is very fulfilling. Yeah. And then actually someone else goes and does that portion of the work. Yeah. And you're like, okay, the money's come in or whatever. Yeah. But I guess it's just a different sort of satisfaction.
It's a different satisfaction, exactly. And I wouldn't ever want to not do the performing. Like, I often get asked, like, oh, would you ever give up the stand-up? I'm like, no, the stand-up's really fun. And like, it's a really big part of my career.
And it's not just the lucrative versus the whatever, it's what speaks to you.
Yeah, and it's like, I get to do gigs across the country at clubs, and I did one last night and one on Friday, and like, it's really fun to be on stage and do my jokes, and I love it. But like, another part of my career is sitting in a room and writing and letting other people have that moment in the spotlight, I guess. But I would never give up either one. Like, I see both as fun. And they feed each other. Like, the more I write in a room for other people, the better I get writing for myself. And equally, I think being a comedian myself and knowing what it's like to go on stage and say a new joke really helps the writing, because I think if you didn't know how hard that is, and just like your kind of instincts of cadence and rhythm on stage, you can quite easily lose that if you're not on stage regularly. Yeah. Like, you might just write something and go, oh, that sounds funny. But I just know, as a comedian who's been on stage, I could look at it and go, no, I just know that's too many words. Because if I was going to say that on stage, that wouldn't work.
So the constant polishing.
It's basically like keeping match fit. like, I see comedy as you've just got to keep match fit, and it's so easy to lose it because it's like a muscle, and if you don't exercise it, you forget how to be funny.
And talking of muscles that you've exercised in terms of your own creative output, I just thought it'd be nice to chat a little bit about your shows that you developed, and perhaps the role that Edinburgh has played. I'm sure there's many stories and things you could share about many years at Edinburgh, but why is that so valuable each time, and what kind of role does the Fringe play in your career?
The Edinburgh Fringe is a brilliant place, but it's also, the Edinburgh Fringe has been the place of some of my biggest highs and some of my biggest lows, and they've come within like sometimes hours of each other, because it's just such an emotional roller coaster, and you're just up there doing a show on your own. It's so exposing. You're doing it 25 times in a row. You're doing other shows all the time as well in the day, like shorter spots, so you're tired. There's the kind of, all your friends are there. Like, it's so full on. And often particularly when I was younger, I was going out every night, so that also doesn't help. So there's a lot. Like, it's a real emotional roller coaster. But it's brilliant, because you work for at least half the year creating a show. It takes ages to write an hour of stand-up. It's really hard. Yeah. And you've got to test it, because to write an hour of stand-up, you probably have to write 5 hours of stand-up, really. Like, to get an hour of stand-up at the end, you've got to write probably 5 for it to be good. And that's a lot. And then you've got to go in front of audiences around the country before Edinburgh to find out if it's funny. And like, that's a really brutal experience. Like, so often I'd get a train up to Darlington and perform in front of 30 people and test my new show. And I'll be like, right, well, half of that doesn't work. And it's like, you know, I've got 2 weeks till Edinburgh. Like it's a really scary thing, but it feels amazing. And when Edinburgh goes well, you feel so creatively satisfied because you've got packed rooms coming to watch you every night, and you're doing a thing that you've just created that you feel really proud of, and it's like it's an amazing place. And you know, you walk around the streets and all posters of all your friends doing their shows as well, and everyone's chasing their dream. It's like very, I think, incredibly beautiful that all these artists are kind of doing all things. Now, sadly, it's become very expensive, even more so than when I started, and it's quite prohibitive to many, many people. They just can't do the Fringe anymore, and I think that's a real travesty because it should be a place of art that any artist can go up and perform. You know, there shouldn't really be boundaries to doing the Fringe. The whole point of the Fringe is it's for everyone. So I think it's really bad that, you know, accommodation's become too expensive, the tickets are too expensive, the everything. So, you know, but that's a different podcast. But I've been fortunate to do it. Yeah, I've done 7 solo shows, and you know, some have gone well, some have not gone so well, and you know, it's never through lack of effort. It's normally other factors, and sometimes you just don't quite get it right. You know, the idea isn't quite there, or you haven't executed it perfectly. And when you're in that bubble, it's really hard to tweak because, you know, it's really hard to fix a show when you're there because you're doing it every night, and it's quite exhausting. So you can tweak little things, but you can't make drastic changes. It's really hard. But yeah, there's, you know, look, I've had years where you're just, you know, it's not your year. You know, it's not like it's going badly. You're still getting an audience and people are still enjoying it, but it's just not you're not the show everyone's talking about. And that can be really tough, you know, particularly if the show that everyone's talking about is your friend's show, and you're like, obviously you're happy for them, but a little bit, you're like, God, I want that to be me, you know? And that has taken me ages to sort of get my head around that. And, but when it is your year, you know, I wouldn't say I've ever had a year that I'm the talk of the town, but I've definitely had years where I've been, had sort of shows that people were excited to see. You feel a pressure, obviously, to keep it going well, but you do feel amazing. You feel like it's really satisfying to know that people care about what you're saying, and that, you know, you've created something that people want to watch. But yeah, I love the Fringe. I'll go back. You know, I see myself going back for as long as possible. But I went through a period of doing it every single year, and that was quite grueling. Because you come off the back of one, you might go on tour with it, and then you've got to write a brand new one, and it's just like you basically never stop doing the Edinburgh Fringe. Like it's an all year round project, and then when other work starts coming in, it becomes a bit difficult. But I would love to go back. It's just it's not an every year thing for me anymore.
Sure. And what's coming next? Do you set goals? Do you have, you know, what you'd like to achieve in the next bit of time? Or are you kind of just flow with it a little bit?
Yeah, I think, like, I do. I obviously have things that I want to achieve. Like, I want to make another scripted show. I have lots of ideas in development that I kind of work with friends on. But it's really difficult to control that stuff. Like, you can't really... I don't have a huge amount of grip on whether a TV channel wants to make a TV show with me. You know, like, I can't really control it. So I just pitch ideas, I develop ideas. That's a fun process. And then I let the kind of fate take its course. In terms of like short-term stuff, I've got lots of writing work on, which I really enjoy doing. And then I just gig around the country and do like fun gigs. I'm at the stage now in the clubs on the circuit where I can sort of headline, most clubs. And that's an amazing honor, to be honest, like to be someone's Saturday night. You know, they've booked like babysitters and they're there to have a laugh, and like I really genuinely love that pressure of like going on stage and feeling like you want to give them a good Saturday night. So yeah, that's the short term. And now, I'll just keep writing projects, and who knows what will come up. You know, I'll do Love Island again in the summer, and I will be building up a new show to take to Edinburgh the following year in 2027. And I've actually just put out a YouTube special of my previous Edinburgh show, Shiny. So that's up now. You can just watch that for free if you just search Steve Bugeja Shiny. And I'm really proud of that. Like, we recorded that in London, really lovely little room called the Museum of Comedy, and we sort of made it into like it's like a story show. Like I tend to, with my shows, I tend to tell stories. It's not just like jokes in a row. It's like there's a narrative to it, and it's all about success and how my self-esteem responds to success and failure, and how society treats success and failure. Because I think we're really bad at, we sort of treat successful people like gods, and we treat failure like the worst thing in the world, and I think that's really unhealthy. So it's kind of about that and my own experience of that,
Yeah.
the ups and downs of life. So
It's possible to get some pretty serious messages out in a comedic
Oh my God, yeah.
way as well.
Absolutely.
And I just want, as well as that, just other thing that you, I've seen you MC like quite a few times, which is another interesting skill, perhaps versus headlining.
Yeah.
But it's another kind of string to your bow, I suppose.
Yeah, I host quite a lot. Really fun, when you're an MC of a gig, at a comedy club, you'll have 3 other comedians on. You're the host, and your job is to make that room as nice as possible for the other acts. I take that responsibility quite seriously. You can't mess it up. You've got to like make the crowd nice. The aim is to make the crowd feel like one group. It's like really, there's almost like some crowd psychology behind it. You've got to make them feel like a group. And almost move together. Sounds a bit wanky, but you've kind of got to bring a bunch of strangers together.
Yeah.
And that's a really fun, you do a bit of like chatting to them and getting laughs out of it, but you can't just do that because that creates a sort of almost antagonistic atmosphere. You kind of got to bring everyone together.
Togetherness. Yeah.
And then you do some and then then you bring the acts on. Like that is a fun thing. It's not as fun as doing a set, I don't think personally, but some people love it.
Brilliant. So we've chatted about loads, which has been amazing. Some fantastic stuff in there. I just want to bring it together now a little bit and just kind of close by anchoring a little bit on this well-being side of things. And as I say, with scales, you've got sleep, creative, active, listen, earth, and social. Sleep, pretty self-explanatory. Creative, we've spoken about quite a lot in terms of the outlets, the process. Active, we haven't really covered, but obviously the idea of getting your body moving and using the endorphins, etc.
Did a park run yesterday, mate.
There you go. Yeah. So the listen string in terms of listening to our body, eating well, hydrating, but also listening to filtering that content and the things we're taking on, which can be quite harmful. Then the earth string, really grounding ourselves, slowing down, being with nature, etc. And then again, the social string, we've covered quite a lot. So I've brushed over it there, but when you're thinking about, and you must think about how to look after your well-being when you're perhaps in a process of doing a lot of comparisons and a lot of, oh God, this person's doing really well. And oh God, how well am I doing? And oh, actually, am I going to be locked in a room for hours on end and not see anyone? How do you look after your well-being?
I mean, the truth is I have good days and bad days, right? Like I've definitely got better overall. But there are definitely, I go through cycles and sometimes I am like too fixated on what other comedians are doing and worrying about how many views my TikTok's got and all that. And that stuff is just a recipe for sadness. Like there's no good outcome from it. But sometimes it's unavoidable and I just try and just see the bigger picture. I think what helps me a lot is just zooming out a bit and just going, you know what, does that one video really matter? No, it doesn't. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Like even one gig's not the end of the world. Like it's, it's 1 year in comedy isn't the end of the world. Like nothing really is that definitive.
So that's a sort of grounding in itself.
That's how I do it. Yeah, I zoom out. And I regularly get it wrong and have to, my girlfriend has to regularly go, Steve, let's get some perspective here, as I rant and rave. But I've got better at just going, what are the core things that make me happy? And like, let's get back to those. The core things are being creative, seeing my friends, exercising the sort of minimum, but enough amount. And that's really, and sleep, actually, I am a big, I do really, I need my 8 hours. That's what I've learned. If I have any but less than 8 hours, I'm a mess. And yeah, I just try and get back to those basics and not worry too much about status and success, because I sort of know, like I've had things in the past where I thought that would be the thing that made me feel good, and it doesn't really. It maybe temporarily makes you feel happy, but it's not a long-term thing. So I think that's helped actually give me some perspective. It's not to say I don't want success, because of course I do, but it's more like I just sort of want the success so that I can keep doing the creative thing. Like you just need to earn enough money so that you can keep being creative. So you do need an element of success. But it's not the end in itself. The end is to have a creative job.
So it's kind of enough to keep going and
and some
keep
years
doing
you
what
have,
you love doing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And some years you have better years than others. But really, I think, and I decided this, I can't remember when I decided it, but I remember just saying, right, all I want in life is just to be creative every single day. And obviously sometimes I forget, but that is all I need to be happy.
The kind of essence of how
just
that feels.
do something creative each day. And like, even if it's recording a podcast, like this is, I guess creative in some way. And it gives you a bit of like, I did something creative. And that is pretty much all I need to be happy. Like, it doesn't solve all your problems. My friends will be attest to that. But it helps, I think, just having a key thing, going back to like what is the core of my happiness, and it's just being creative.
Brilliant. So is there anything else you wish to add that you feel you've left out, anything else you wanted to say?
I don't think so. I'm very conscious of, I don't want to like come across like one of those guests on Diary of a CEO where they sort of preach as if they know everything, because I really hate that stuff, because I don't think anyone's got it figured out. I think we're all kind of bluffing. But I think that's almost quite nice to know, like, don't put pressure on yourself to be like, oh, why am I not more like them? Why have I not got all these things worked out? Because the truth is no one has. And it's, once you remember that, like, it kind of takes the pressure off, I think.
All right.
Maybe they have got it worked out and I'm just wrong though.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Steve, for coming on today. If you are enjoying this podcast, we do have other episodes available. If you Google Tom Ryder Wellbeing, that's Ryder with a Y, then you can watch the other episodes, visit the site, find out more about Scales, and find out more about how you can look after your own wellbeing as well. But thanks one more time to Steve, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having us.